ever been to the remote, dense, centuries-old forests of Montana, USA, where even sunlight is afraid to touch the ground, then you've probably heard the name Black Cedar House. Locals shut their doors the moment this name is spoken. It's a house that has stood completely abandoned and empty for the past 42 years. But with every passing night, the terror of that house grows. At midnight, when the entire forest sinks into silence, a strange, dim, yellow light can be seen glowing from the broken window on the upper floor of the house. Here's the shocking part, friends. The house's electrical connection was permanently cut off all the way back in 1984. My name is Jack Carter. I'm a paranormal documentarian. My job is exactly this: to go to the world's most cursed, most terrifying places, live through their nights, and capture that truth on my 4K camera to bring it before the world. For years, people kept commenting on my YouTube videos. Jack, if you think ghosts only exist in stories, if you really want to face true supernatural terror, go to the forests of Montana and spend a night in the Black Cedar House. At first, I thought this was just another fabricated false story spread across the internet for views, like so many others. But when I pulled up the old police records and files on the disappearance of the Harper family, my hair stood on end. On a snowy, freezing night in 1984, the entire Harper family suddenly vanished from that house. Despite months of police investigation, no body was found, not a single drop of blood, and not a single clue. But you know what the most shocking part was? When the police first entered the house, dinner was still laid out on the dining table. And even today, 42 years later, it sits on that table exactly as it was. Dried out, but never decayed. That's when I decided I would uncover this mystery myself. I would go inside that house. At exactly 7 in the evening, as the last ray of the setting sun disappeared, I reached the middle of that dense forest. The sky was completely covered in dark, heavy clouds. It felt as though nature itself was warning me to turn back. The air was so cold that my breath turned to fog. The wind shook the dry branches of the trees in such a way, as if some invisible shadow was standing in the darkness, whispering directly into my ear. Looking ahead, the house stood like a massive, black silhouette. Its walls had turned black, as if scorched by fire. That charred wooden frame sent a shiver down my spine even from a distance. And here's the strangest part. The house's heavy wooden front door was already slightly open. It felt as if the house itself were a living devil, its mouth open, waiting just for me. I took a deep breath, cleaned my 4K camera's lens, checked the mic levels, and with heavy steps, crossed that damp, decaying threshold. The moment I stepped inside, a strange, icy cold gripped my entire body. There was such a thick layer of dust that with every breath, the dust filled my lungs. There was a strange stench in the air, as if something old had been sealed shut for centuries. Then I switched on my camera's powerful flashlight and shone it on the floor. The moment I saw the floor, my steps froze. On that thick layer of dust, there were fresh footprints, clean human footprints, without a trace of dust on them. The footprints led toward the staircase. Looking at them, it seemed as if someone had walked through there just seconds before I stepped in. I swallowed hard, ran my dry tongue over my lips, and shouted in a trembling voice. "Is anybody here? Is there anyone here? I'm a filmmaker. No answer came from anywhere. There was only silence, a silence that seemed to be eating itself from the inside. Holding my camera steady in my hand, I slowly crossed the large hall and began moving toward the staircase leading upstairs. The old wooden floor creaked with every step I took. Then, right above me, a sound echoed from the ceiling of the second floor. Someone was walking around calmly, with measured steps. Without wasting a second, I turned my camera's lens upward and shone the flashlight. But at the top of the stairs, there was only dense, pitch-black darkness. There was no one there. My heart was pounding so fast I felt like my eardrums would burst. Fear was overtaking my mind, but my courage kept pushing me forward. I placed my foot on the first step of the staircase. The moment I took the second step, the sound of footsteps coming from above suddenly changed. It was no longer slow. The sound began moving rapidly from top to bottom. It felt as if something very heavy was running down the stairs, straight toward me. And then, a terrible jolt. My camera's screen, which was at 100% charge, suddenly began flickering strangely. Static lines appeared, and it shut off with a jolt. The camera's flashlight died too. The entire house, within a single moment, sank into a deep, freezing, suffocating ocean of darkness. I couldn't even see my own fingers. I stood there, stunned. Then, right behind me, right near my neck, I felt an extremely cold breath, as if frozen from ice, and a low whisper came. "You shouldn't have come back." My blood ran cold. Out of sheer terror, I couldn't even scream. I quickly switched on my phone's flashlight and turned around. But there was no one there. Just empty air and terrifying darkness. I was panting, sweat dripping from my forehead despite the freezing air. Like a madman, I kept pressing the power button on my 4K camera again and again. With a sharp digital beep, the camera turned back on. That eerie green glow of night vision lit up the screen. I tried to take a breath of relief, but that breath froze in my throat. On that green screen of the camera, right in front of me, someone was standing. A woman. Her neck was bent completely broken at a strange, unnatural angle, as if someone had twisted it. And her eyes. There were no pupils where her eyes should have been. Just two deep, fleshless, hollow black pits. She was standing so close to me that her face was only 2 inches from my camera lens. In sheer terror, I lowered the camera and looked directly ahead with my naked eyes. There was no one there. Just empty, deserted air. But the moment I looked back into the camera's green screen, the woman was still standing there, her mutilated face still there. And this time, she was staring straight into the camera's lens, smiling an incredibly terrifying, wide smile. The camera was seeing the horrifying truth that my naked eyes had lost the ability to see. My entire being went numb. My feet felt frozen to the ground. I tried to run back, but then another bone-chilling sound rose from the floor, on the dusty stairs, on their own. Without anyone stepping on them, new footprints began appearing. The invisible woman was coming down the stairs toward me, and this time, those footprints weren't moving slowly. They were rushing toward me at incredible speed, as if some invisible predator was lunging straight at me. I screamed with all my strength, and clutching the camera to my chest, ran down toward the dining hall to save my life. The moment I stepped into the hall, the sight before me shattered my senses completely. My mind had been blown to pieces. The food that, according to police records, had been completely dried out for the past 42 years was now sending up hot, steaming smoke and vapor from the dishes on the table. The strong aroma of freshly cooked meat filled the entire hall. But the moment I, trembling with fear, stepped closer to that dining table, that aroma instantly turned into a horrifying stench. It was the smell of rotting, weeks-old human flesh. I began to choke, and I nearly vomited. Just then, the heavy old wooden chairs around the dining table all shifted back at once, with loud, violent scrape. It felt as though the invisible members of the vanished Harper family had all sat down together at the table for dinner. Just then, my eyes fell suddenly on an old, dust-covered window glass on the hall's wall. In that glass, I saw my reflection. The moment I saw it, I screamed and collapsed to the floor. The face reflected in the window glass wasn't mine. It was the face of a middle-aged American man, his skin peeling away in patches, his eyes bulging out in terror. He was writhing in pain, pounding on the inside of the window glass with blood-soaked hands, as if he had been trapped forever inside an invisible cage of glass. Then, right next to my ears, that same cold, whispering voice echoed again. "Welcome home, Dad. We've been waiting for 42 years. Dad? Why did they call me Dad? I'm Jack Carter. I only came here to make a documentary. Or could I really be the one who disappeared from here that night in 1984? Was this house playing with my memories? Or had my past dragged me back? I ran like a madman toward the front door to escape. But the moment I reached the door, that heavy door slammed shut on its own, with a terrifying, echoing boom. I shook the iron handle like a lunatic, pounded on it, but the door had become like a part of the wall. The windows, the doors, all had been sealed shut forever. The air inside the house suddenly grew heavy, hot, and suffocating. Drops of red blood began slowly dripping from the cracks in the walls, and from the staircase, from the dining table chairs, from every dark corner of the hall. Dozens of black shadows began slowly crawling toward me. Where their eyes should have been, there were only empty, black pits. And on all their faces, that same terrifying, wide smile. With trembling hands, I raised my camera in front of my face. Its night vision was still on. On that green screen of the camera, I could see my own hands, slowly melting. My skin was peeling away. I was transforming. My body was turning into exactly what I had seen in the window glass. That writhing man in agony. I understood then. The Harper family had never vanished from this world at all. They were trapped within the walls of this very black cedar house in its endless darkness. And today, 42 years later, this house had finally gotten back its last lost member. The camera slipped from my melting hands and fell to the floor. Its lens faced upward, and the last thing that screen ever recorded was dozens of hollow eyes glowing in the darkness, abandoning the fallen camera and lunging straight toward me. The end.